order the regular village council meeting Tuesday, August 13th at 7 p.m. If we could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Medor, could you call the roll, please?
Cook.
Here.
Helmut.
Yes.
Bordeaux, absent. Kemp.
Here.
Nicosia.
Here.
I'll make a motion to excuse Lori Bordeaux.
Support.
Motion made by Cook, seconded by Helmuth. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nay? Motion carries. Next, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
There's no changes. I'll make a motion to approve the amended agenda as presented.
Support. Thank you. Motion made by Helmuth, seconded by Kemp. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nay? Motion carries. Item 5, call to the public. Would anyone like to address council under public comment? Seeing no one approaching, we'll move on to the consent agenda, item A.
I'll make a motion to receive and file consent agenda item A, 1 and 2.
Support.
Thank you. Moved by Helmuth, seconded by Nicosia. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nay? Motion carries. And 6B.
Motion to approve consent agenda. B, approval of minutes, July 9th, 2024. Bills in the amount of $419,706.03.
Support. If you were done.
I believe so.
Do you want to add the, or you're adding all
And
the
item
items?
number 3, monthly budget report, treasurer's report, and budget amendments.
I'll amend my support.
Thank you. Motion made by Nicosia, seconded by Helmuth. Roll call vote, please.
Nicosia.
Yes.
Kemp.
Yes.
Bordeaux, absent. Helmut.
Yes.
And
Yes. That carries. Item 7, unfinished old business. A, Lakeside Drive School drop-off traffic control order. Chief Bordeaux, this is the first reading of the ordinance amendment.
Madam President.
Yeah.
I want to correct a little bit what I had
sure.
on there. They put that on there when they started the agenda and thinking we were going to have to amend the ordinance, but there isn't anything in the ordinance specifically related to streets and certain times and stuff like that. It's more of a general ordinance that says that the police department takes care of all the ordinance, parking issues and traffic issues.
Okay.
So all we really have to do is approve the control or traffic control order. We have the temporary one in place.
Oh,
We just have to approve the one that's in the packet, which will then become the permanent one.
great.
The law has some interesting wording, so temporary orders become permanent orders upon being approved by the ordinance making body.
Oh, okay.
That's you, the legislative body, so once you approve it, it's effective.
Going through ordinance process, no change. Okay. I will make a motion to approve the traffic control order number 24-01 as presented.
Support.
Motion made by Cook, seconded by Helmuth. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Cook.
Yes.
Helmut.
Yes.
Kemp.
Yes.
Nicosia.
Yes.
Motion carries, and the ordinance is, or the order rather, is approved. Thank you. 7B, the tree replacement program update.
And you'll see, I've kind of included some of the documentation that City of Berkeley had used, and they break their tree species down, and they have quite a list of prohibited ones, partly because they aren't native, and partly because they break it down further into size and where they can be done, depending on the width of the right-of-way between the sidewalk and the curb. So just kind of going through that, you'll see that as you get to the smaller trees, less than 25 feet, it gets pretty small number of trees that they allow. So we have a lot of areas where it's this very narrow right-of-way also, and because of the effect on the sidewalk and everything else, we'll probably be looking at trees when we narrow it down to some of that small area. And then I also put together just like a draft, a plagiarized draft of what their planting program is and how it works. It's June 1st of each year that they take in those applications and then weigh out and then determine where the proper locations are. But it does leave a lot of the decision-making with, in their case, the city of Berkeley. The DPW will look at it, determine based on, underground utilities, manholes and things like that. And it's, you see in bold there in the middle of the page, it takes at least 5 years for the roots to break down. So when somebody has a tree taken down, they want to put them right back in the same spot a couple years, obviously we'll tell them no, they need to move it over, things like that. So just as I'm working through it, anytime when I'm not doing the other stuff, those are some of the things I'm coming across. And they have some good examples of why, what someone might think is a decent looking and live tree is taken down. Sugar maples is the example they used, and we've run across the same thing. It's hollow, and it's starting to die off in spots like that, and even though it still might look like it can last a few more years, it becomes too dangerous, and we have removed them. So, and then further on in their information and in the program, they have some very tips and stuff for those who need to go out and water it and help maintain that tree as it gets growing. So, just some little bit furtherance of what I'm finding, and we'll keep working on that for you.
So I met with Berkeley on this because their DPW guy sits on a board that I represent. And he encouraged our folks to go on the websites for both Pleasant Ridge and Huntington Woods and take a look at their tree literature. It's just a good example of things we could end up posting once we have a tree program in place. And a lot of the research has been done on tree types and how to select them for different soils. So anyways, but in Berkeley, it works pretty well. They have a pretty good program.
Great, thank you. So what are the next steps then? I know you said you're working on putting it together, and so
Yeah.
would it just be a matter of, you want more feedback from council or anything, or we can just kind of, put together an application, post it?
We're just gonna put,
I'll keep working on it and
Yeah.
fine tuning it better and tweaking it to where it comes to it's, if not done, nearly done, and then we can maybe, make some final determinations on the numbers you might wanna do. Maybe the first couple of years, we keep it small, like 5 or something like that, just so we get our feet wet and get the people to understand that what they have responsibility on their end and things like that. But I'll work on trying to pare down some good options, but when we get to the real narrow right-of-ways, and of course, we're concerned about the height with power lines, or sometimes it's just phone cable lines, but still, you don't want trees, huge trees planting there. It might be a pretty narrow number of trees that fit in some of those locations. Silver maples won't be one of them, I don't think.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Can you send, before anything goes live, could you send it to us to?
oh yeah, we'll bring it back.
Okay.
We'll definitely bring it back and have you guys tweak it, because again, the process they use, that they get the applications in June, then they somehow, their process then furthers on and they plant them in the fall. I don't think we're looking at anything where we could have something ready for this fall, because, you have to get the trees and get them ordered and get everything all laid out, rolled out.
They initially got a flood when they started the program. It's tapered off.
Yeah.
Of applicants?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But it's steady, but it wasn't, it really went kind of off the charts at first.
And maybe what we could do is provide at least a relatively recent list of trees where we've taken them down, and maybe give those folks priority. Let's say there's 20 or 30 of them. Obviously, if they're older, we could plant maybe in the same location, but some of them might say, that's fine, move it the other side of my driveway, or this other side of the sidewalk coming to my home, and they'd be happy with that. So some of those folks, I think, might be happy to have them, but some of them are just, like the tree is gone and are okay.
Great. Any questions or further discussion? No? Awesome, thank you.
Yep.
All right, 7C, this is the Oakland County's multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan. And a proposed resolution for that.
I just want to say that I think I would have killed myself if I had to sit on this committee. Did you read your 1,000-page document? Well, there's
Generally
honesty.
know what it's about. But we know Bob did, so.
I did, just so you know.
I read a lot of it too, Bob, and I'd like to poke my eye out.
So this administration, we used to have, different 5-year plans where we planned for waste management and waste control, and now, the county has reformatted this into a materials management planning process, which is pretty extensive if you go and read. I had the pleasure of working with the state on joining the up north communities.
Bob, this is the.
Oh, I'm sorry, we're
This
on
is
the
the
wrong
hazard
one.
mitigation, that was a different one we were talking about earlier.
Oh, shit, okay. I wanted a lecture on that.
Different 1,000-page.
Different.
It's 1,000 pages.
Sure.
All right, this is all right, I'll get back to
Hazard
the other
mitigation.
one. I'll get
plan.
back to the other one.
Why don't I just go ahead and make a motion to adopt the resolution number 2408 for Oakland County Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan?
Motion made by Helmut, seconded by Kemp. Any discussion? All right, hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Helmut,
Yes.
Kemp? Yeah.
Yes.
Cook?
Yes. Motion carries, resolution adopted. Thank you. All right, item 8, new business, the Oxford Lakes Labor Day weekend fireworks display permit application.
I think everything you have or need is in there. Different vendor this year we have dealt with, but I think they provided everything. Their NFPA regulation laydown area, or 1,000-foot buffer zone, insurance. So I think Terry's got a memo in there. She has seen everything. Kelsey, you might even have the original.
I do.
Yes, okay.
Mhm.
So
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the application?
So moved.
Moved by Helmut, seconded by Kemp. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Carries, that application for permit is approved. Next is the water plant aerator and softener tanks inspection and analysis consideration.
yeah, so, and I had to get back with Don Brantley today. This is something we've been looking at for a while. Artesian of Pioneer, the AOP that's provided these, are the folks who built the water plant a number of years ago and installed this equipment to begin with. A couple of things they want done. It's time to have have them just inspected for one. And then we had Eagle, they're doing a full site well house, water plant, and everything, called a sanitary survey about 3 weeks ago. And we'd mentioned them, we're in the process of having these inspected. Part of the option you'll see in the bottom, you'll see it on the very first one is, there's 2 vertical softener, inspection, 2 vertical pressure softeners, but there are 3 vessels. So they're gonna inspect those, but it's best to then, at that time, as long as they're here on site, they take a core sample of the media inside there and take it out for lab analysis. They can see how it's breaking down and what kind of minerals and stuff are causing it. So that's what the option is in the bottom. You see the inspection itself is $3,500. Below that, it says add $800 each. Well, there's 3 of those vessels, so that would add $2,400 for the softener quote. And then a similar on the next page is the same thing for the filters inspections of the core samples as well, acid solubility test, EDS surface scan test, and check for that. That's $4,500, and then there are 2 of the filter cells. They would have to have core samples removed and analyzed at $1,000 each. So again, this is something that you don't have to do very often. It's been many years since it was built. But the recommendation from Don Brantley and myself would be to go forward with the investments, the inspections cost, as well as the optional core sampling of each. So that would make it $3,500 and $2,400, $5,900 for the softeners, and $6,500 for the filters, filter inspections. Separate units in there. So our recommendation would be to approve those, both of those quotes through Artesian of Pioneer.
Just kind of curious, how often are those replaced and replaced or repaired, and how long ago was that done?
Well, it's over 10 years old that I believe that the plant was built. What was it, 16? I'm trying to think it was 16. No, it wasn't 16. It's much older.
74?
Well, it was, the plant was redone. That's what the one bond was we had, so no, it was way before 16. So they're pretty old. So it's gonna be multiple, you know, at least 10 years, I think, down the road before they even have to be looked at. Wouldn't have to probably do the filter media then, unless they feel that it's needed to be checked again because it's not functioning properly. So,
You have an idea of approximate costs of replacement?
no, no, that part we haven't looked at. The vessels themselves, the filter media would have to be replaced, not the vessels themselves.
Right.
So, no, I don't have any things like that, because the vessels are good, but the media should be fine. And that's part of the reason they do the test, is to verify it, or I mean, it's the core sampling test.
I'll make a motion to approve the quotes for the water softener inspection and the filter inspection to Artesian of Pioneer in an amount not to exceed $12,400.
Support.
Motion made by Helmut, seconded by Smith. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Kemp?
Yes.
Nicosia?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Cook?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Motion carries, thank you. Okay, 8C, the professional services bid for 18 Westford.
Yep, and you'll see on page 2 of the bid there, where the numbers are. This is what I mentioned last month, about taking a look at 18 and see if it's worth, or what the differences would be to renovate it versus to demolish it. Again, being that it's, if you do demolish it, you'll also have to have some design and engineering to retrofit that end of the building, and you know, to make it look similar or better. You know, you're gonna have a chunk missing. So the top 4 items are the $4,500 that I mentioned last month. That would include the building analysis report, as-built floor plans and elevations. He had provided estimated construction cost report for the rehabilitation, and then an estimated construction cost report for demolition and new construction. So that will give you a good idea on both fronts, and you could compare those costs. And then the bottom 2,000 optional is something we could do later. If you're going to do a conceptual design, or you are gonna demolish it, and then have to redesign the facade and the front porch, and design how that's gonna extend and wrap around on the part that got removed, that's something you can decide later, and that's a $2,000 option at the bottom. So the $4,500 is the one to do the analysis and to build, to create the floor plans and elevations the way it sits now, and to do those 2 cost estimates for rehab versus demo. I think then we'd have a much better idea what the spread is, I guess, so to speak. Because with basement involved over there and demoing that out, it's not going to be cheap. The architect, just merely walking through it the one day, walking around it, he thought it still was quite usable. The roof obviously needs to be addressed, all the HVAC need to be addressed, as well as interior, maybe redesign interior walls. They would then analyze which ones are weight bearing, which ones are not. How much could you open it up, because it's really chopped up, old style, you know? So that analysis would help determine how it could be opened up and used.
Can you work in here, I don't know that we need to get this redone, but can you work in here and ask like a recommendation on which way to go based off of their analysis? Or is that not
I
something-
suppose, you know, he could probably have an opinion. I could ask him to provide his opinion on it. I mean, again, he's gonna say, well, here's what I see it would take to remove this, renovate this, based on costs that he sees in the industry. His recommendation could probably say, doesn't matter to him, 6 of one, half dozen of the other, I suppose. If he sees something that's really detrimental to renovate it, I think that'll come out and be borne in that analysis and cost estimate. And so I think that might lead the decision-making right there. Again, I could ask him, and he'll be here. I mean, he could present it to us. This is the gentleman that was here for the South Washington Triangle, the design
Yeah.
house.
You can ask,
architect.
you could probably ask that question.
Yeah, I mean, based on what he's gonna present to us that night, we could ask him some follow-up questions.
Yeah, that works.
Are you good
This
with
is
that,
something he
Jim?
could probably have done within 30 to 60 days, so.
Seems worth the cost to be able to get the best option, so.
Yeah. At least then we know, because if you are gonna demolish it, a lot goes into it, because of the SHPO, State Historic Preservation Office, about the building being over 50 years old and all the environmental stuff that they deal with. That adds a lot of a headache to it as well. So if the option to keep it and renovate it is within reach, reasonable reach, then it's better all around.
To authorize Design House Architecture to provide services at the
Support?
motion by Cook, seconded by Hellmuth. Any discussion? None, roll call vote, please.
Cook?
Yes.
Helmuth?
Yes.
Kemp?
Yes.
Next is the DDA vacancy due to resignation. So Grace Carey resigned from the DDA board at our last meeting. Regretfully, sad to see her go. She's a huge asset to the Downtown Development Authority Board. So we now have a vacancy with a term ending the end of 2026. And so Scott Taylor was one of the applicants who Kelly was impressed with, I've been impressed with. He's already doing a lot in our downtown with the Wednesday night car shows and just contributing in a lot of different areas. He's also serves on the Grange Board of Education, so he's experienced in serving in on a board capacity with a lot of unique experience as well. So I would move to appoint Scott Taylor to the DDA current DDA vacancy with a term ending 12/31/2026. Support. Motion by Cook, seconded by Kemp. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote, please.
Okay, Helmuth?
Yes.
Kemp?
Yes.
Nicosia?
Yes.
Cook?
Motion carries. 8E, the special event application for the Scarecrow Festival.
Okay, this is an event they've done years and years, and, it's expanded a little bit. Last year, I think was the first year of that run, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That's the second year, actually.
Second
This
year?
is the third, yeah.
Okay, all right. And this year, they wanted to expand a little bit more and perhaps do a street closure on West Burdick
West
and
and
east, okay, so I thought best that we come to council with that, just so, everyone's aware of it, chiefs have been aware of it, they've discussed it. So that's what's in your packet today, is for them to add in that to the ongoing events over the years.
We've done that in the past. Was it for the Scarecrow Festival years ago? Was it Lone
It's
Spring?
actually Celebrate Oxford, which was so long ago.
Okay.
Or when they hit the gas main?
Which one?
There was one when I was here too, I think it might have been, was it the?
They hit that gas main on the east side,
It-
putting up the tent.
Oh, no.
Oh, over by the church? Yeah. But,
It seems like only yesterday.
well, I think it was like 2018 or 19 they did one, because the band played over the young kids, when I was here, they did one. That might have been after the Lone Ranger Parade or something. Because that was 2018 or 19, they did it too. And it was on both sides. I remember the stage was set up over there, and that, young kids bands, high schoolers. So, our chief is aware of all the road closures, he's on board. We'll work with the DPW to get the barricades and stuff out. There'll be, we may have to, because you cannot come up northbound and turn west, or left, the left turn lane, and the same thing heading south to go left over there, we'll have to have some coordination with MDOT for that lane closure, the left turn lanes only. So it's a barricade, we'll have to go on there. So that makes it a little bit trickier than just closing our own, but that'll entail that as well.
Can you remind me, does the social district commons area go into the road on East West Burdick? Like, can people have a drink standing on West Burdick? That's
They can
okay?
cross the roads, they know.
They can cross it, so they
Yeah.
can, okay, that's good.
Yeah, if I recall, we had this conversation at was that the strategic planning, or something,
Yeah.
we were talking recently about that. If I remember right, and I haven't gone back and looked, I don't think you can cross the state highway with a
Right.
drink, that's what it was.
Yeah, but they can walk
but you
Like a
can go
walk
north and south
close
over a
area.
local
Yeah.
road.
Yeah, that's not very real. Good.
And I'm sure no one's ever crossed M24 with one.
Nope, never happened.
So I guess what is the plan for the traffic, I guess, during that time? How are we gonna route?
Chief, Chief, can you come up and talk about the detour route and stuff?
Good evening, council. Village people.
So where would it go? So if people are coming into town from Lakeville Road, right, you're going to set up where and divert them?
For the, when we, do the blockades for East and West Burdick.
Yes.
At Mill Street, so we would stop, we put the barricades up at Mill Street, and then also at, Hudson Street here as well, or Pontiac Street, to, deter people from coming down to those barricades. That's what we've done in the past. We did it actually at Pontiac and West Burdick, and then Mill Street on the other side. So we just put those wooden barricades, or actually, those, sawhorses that we have. And just put them there just to divert people from coming that way, because they get close to the intersection there, they get kind of trapped and don't want to. It hasn't been an issue in the past, so it shouldn't be a problem, as long as we all coordinate together.
And I know that it's a Sunday now, so, and, you know, it's probably not as busy as your Saturdays, that helps.
Right. I'll make it work.
Nearly a few weeks away.
Yeah.
I'll move to, thanks chief, I appreciate it. I move to approve the special event application 2406 for the DDA Scarecrow Festival.
Support.
Any discussion, questions further? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nay, motion carries.
I have a question. Who seconded that? Jacob? Jacob?
Nicholson,
Okay.
yeah. Next would be at the 2025 NODA interlocal agreement.
Yeah, and this is what we've seen in the past. In order for us to transfer their smart monies over to NODA, they provide us this each year. And at $3,268 will be transferred from the smart money to them. It's kind of a formality that we do that. And so we'd recommend that you approve the municipal credit and community credit contract for fiscal year 2025.
When you say formality, what else would it be used for?
Well, if we don't do this, then they can't get the money from smart
Right,
to do it. So by we doing it, allows them to take the smart money and divert it to NODA.
for NODA, yeah, okay.
Are you gonna sign this, Joe, or is Kelsey?
I have in the past.
I'll make a motion to approve the municipal credit contract for fiscal year 2025 and authorize the village manager to sign.
Support?
Made by Helmut, seconded by Nicosia. Any further discussion, any discussion or questions from council? Hearing none, roll call.
Kemp?
Yes.
Helmut?
Yes.
Cook?
Yes.
Casilla?
Yes.
Okay, next is the repair quote for our DPW.
Okay, so. Part of my deal. Oh, there it is. It's kind of not a great copy from Don and stuff, but our truck actually broke. It wasn't able to move. It was hauled via wrecker down to this BTC Bostic Truck Center in Pontiac. There it sits. The estimate to fix clutch, resurface the flywheel, pilot, and the clutch brake, as well as replace the dump box cylinders and then hydraulics on the dump box for a total of $9,075. Labor being $3,750 of that. Again, it's one of those things that it's already sitting over there. It's been there for a while. It got towed there. And Don's worked with these in the past, so he's comfortable with them doing the work. But because of the amount, it needed to come to council. And so we would recommend that you approve the repair quote as presented.
How old is the dump truck?
I don't remember what year this is. We have two of them. I don't remember what year this one is.
I'm just asking for general, it's,
I couldn't tell you. Sorry. I could have, I thought about having Don here to speak to the water plant stuff
Not
and
that
this,
important.
but, yeah. We have two of the 5-year dumps.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve the quote with Bostic Truck Center for the clutch and dump box cylinder replacement.
support.
Motion by Helen, seconded by Kathy, any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote please.
Cook?
Yes.
Helmut?
Yes.
Garcia?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes.
Motion carries. Okay, next up is 8H, the proposed locations of the new crosswalks on West and East Burdick Street by the DDS.
Okay, the large format sheet that I included in your packet, if everyone has it, if not, I have extras. Jim Sharp, I think Pete and Kelly and Chief Sowell all walked this area and tried to determine where and as far as best locations. I guess the driving force behind this is people talking like before, how they travel north and south across East Burdick and north and south across West Burdick. They're doing it already. It's not a huge walk down to the corner, but we are Americans and we tend to just walk straight. We're not tempted to go down to the corner and cross and come back.
And jaywalk.
Yeah.
All the time.
We did it for a month or so when we were parking over here ourselves. So that's what they did. They worked with Chief to say, all right, where's the best spot for these? The one that crosses east and west on Hudson Street, where it comes up to West Burdick there, that's already in place, and those ramps, I don't think we have it striped right now though for a crosswalk. So that's existing. I just want to make sure that's right. So this project would include new removal of the sidewalks, replacing them with curbs and the ADA ramps, and on both sides. And then you see the hashed area there in the intersection of Hudson and West Burdick. That's mostly to keep people from parking there, because sometimes people do park across there as they're lining up behind that stoplight. And if you move to the east side, over to East Burdick, it's where it comes to the south side of the road, that's where the archway is that the DDA put in after the placemaking sidewalk area that was renovated back there, that new archway there. So obviously they wanted to start and come in and out there. But as you go across, it's kind of in the middle of that drive heading into the northeast lot. Well, because traffic is prohibited from turning left there, at least they're not supposed to, if you, by veering it to the east and coming across there, it would lessen the chance of cars turning in and out of there and then pedestrians, because the cars could come out of there and turn right and still go along naps up to the light. By them coming out and turning right, it would be, still leave that space coming across to the north there, not crisscrossing the pedestrians and people coming out of that lot, because they can't come out of there and turn left. So I think that, you know, because you had to go one way or the other. The area is going to veer to the west over to the real estate building, or they were going to veer to the east, where they have shown now. And again, I think the thought process was if they go to the west, then you potentially have conflicts of people coming out of there turning right and those pedestrians as the light gives a pause at the red lights. My concern when we first brought this up months ago was, you know, how is it going to impact M24, and is MDOT going to have any reasons to push back or deny us? But from what I've been told, there's been some contact with MDOT, and they're not concerned, or they don't have any issues with it. It's far enough back. I'll have to reach out to our traffic engineer. We used to get great responses from the previous traffic engineer, Stacy Goff. She was great, very responsive. This new guy's not so great and responsive. He's learning, I think. He's overwhelmed. So could take me a little while to get the feedback from him. Now, Kelly or Pete, the chair, could potentially speak to the DDA's plan, function, grants, how it's funded and all that stuff. I'm just speaking to how where it's laid out and stuff, and why it's laid out there, and it's done in coordination with the chief. So perhaps they can speak to the other items.
I just have a question about, maybe this is a public safety question for Chief, or just general comment to the council, is I love walkability, so I'm not opposed to this at all. But I find that cars feel like they don't know what to do when they drive up to a crosswalk and someone's waiting there. Cars sometimes stop, and then other cars don't, and then people get upset because cars don't stop. People don't know that you just have to wait for traffic to clear. And I don't like the idea of cars now stopping to let people go when it's already like very congested through there. So that would be my only concern is like, are we making it less safe?
What, concerns about crosswalks? What a novel idea.
I like crosswalks. I have one right outside my house.
I
that
hate
people use
crosswalks.
all the time. It's not
I almost hit a
striped
woman
yet,
in
though.
that crosswalk on the way here.
Right, we're working on that. We might just have to contract it out. We've been running with the
Okay.
scout crew. Don's been mowing lawns and everything for the
Yeah.
last month or two.
That's-
That's about to be changing.
Yeah, yeah. What's council?
Honestly, I have the same concerns that people don't look, pedestrians and drivers don't look, period. So I'm with Kelsey. I'm afraid that it has a false sense of security, even though I want to encourage walkability.
I personally like the crosswalks, it gives people to cross. I don't really see people wanting to walk down to the corner, I just know how everyone is. But I understand the concerns about that, but I think like, you're not allowed to park in that spot anyways, and then I think this one over here makes sense as well too, so I'm in favor of it.
Chief, what are the rules for a crosswalk, traffic rules?
Well, pedestrians in the roadway, not on the roadway, so we have the same discussion about the yellow light that goes up in here on Burdick Street, people ain't stop. You're only supposed to use the pedestrians if they're actually in the road.
We have one right in front of the courthouse in Macomb, and all the lawyers hang out there looking for injuries.
I'm waiting for them.
Yeah, I'm frustrated sometimes too, because I've been news, our mid-block crossings, which I love, like the one by the park and one up by Sick Pete's are great, because there's always traffic stop at the red light, where crossing at the four corners there's constant movement, north, south, east, west, left, left, left. It's harder to cross there, so I find the mid-block ones, but what I found is, I'll be coming across, and I'll be waiting, because cars coming, and all of a sudden, they just stop. I mean, the light turn, and now I gotta run across there, because people are gonna run them in the rear end of them, because they shouldn't be stopping, I'm not in the road, I'm in the
Right, that's
pedestrian
what I
island,
like.
but that's the part I think you're alluding to, is,
Mhm.
Right.
and
Yeah.
people, when they come around these lefts from the north and south, they're not real sharp corners, and sometimes they got a pretty good head of steam getting around there, if they come around here, but again, people are already crossing there, I know I've already crossed at this one numerous times, and not right at Hudson maybe, but just west of it, outside of here, I've already crossed numerous times, so.
Yeah, I'm sure I have too, and I'm fine with, I like the fact that people are already crossing there, put in a crosswalk, but at the same time, crosswalks make cars hesitate, and that's what troubles me the most for
Yeah, the
safety.
hesitancy.
Because the cars don't know, am I supposed, some of them stop, and then, like I said, some of them don't, and they're right here, isn't it, there's, I don't know, there might be 2 lanes, and so I'm
Yeah.
worried about one car stops, the other one doesn't, because they don't see the car stopping, or they don't know why the car's stopping, and there's a pedestrian there, and then
Yeah.
someone gets hurt, so.
Yep.
But Pete, do you wanna come up and talk about?
Yeah, I was gonna say, can we ask the DDA?
Evening board.
Evening.
The whole idea came out of the design committee, again, trying to make the downtown walkability, trying to make everybody go back and forth. Right now on Thursday night, especially Friday night, Saturday night, when everybody's uptown, social district, walking back and forth, it's a constant stream going back and forth across both crossings right now, and there's no markings, there's nothing there whatsoever, so it's actually it's very unsafe going through it. We've looked at all different options as far as what side of the street to put it at Hudson Street, same thing on the other one. And we've come up with, by coming on this side of Hudson Street, there's already, or there should be, or there will be, again, a white line to stop everybody where you're supposed to stop at that white line, because of the intersection and everything. And then also the same thing on the other side of Burdick Street over there by past the relay, there again, there will be the white line, delineating it. There's also, it should be on the drawing there, Mr. Sharp also put on there, I believe, the signs that will be pointing right down at it, that it says, crosswalk in here, everything with, the neon sign that goes up right by them, so again, it calls it out. And our design is the entire intersection of Hudson Street right there will be all completely crossed out or hatched out, so again, when you come around that corner, even visually, it's a whole lot of, if anything does else, it makes you slow down to say, oh crap, something's here right now, we've got to, I got to pay attention to go through it. And that's why we were Xing out that entire
intersection to clearly make it understandable that it's a crosswalk there. When it goes out for bid, we are looking at also including that portion of it in our bid to make sure that way we put it in, and that way we'll pay for it to get it put in, so it, it can go in as soon as it gets done, that we don't have to have the DPW or wait for them to, they have to do it, so.
Do you want to talk about the funding? We're relying on the DDA is relying on a grant, right?
Yes, the DDA, Kelly sat on the board with a group of the managers and everything with Oakland County, and we were awarded an ARPA grant to help fund it, and it's only a portion of our ARPA grant. But I don't know what the cost of it's gonna be until we go out for a bid exactly on it, but it will be covered with our ARPA grant money.
So then it would have to be, obviously, it would have to be done, what'll be done, you're planning on this year still, or next year?
Hopefully this year, but I mean, we were good on the grant through 26.
2026, but would like to go out to bid for fall, if possible.
Yep.
And then I have one more.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, hi guys. So part of this we've been talking about for a couple of years now. When we went to do our public spaces behind the businesses, we always wanted to learn how to connect those public spaces and be able to increase walkability. 90% of the people who come into our businesses are parking behind the stores. So for them to get out, a lot of times with families and walk to the corner, we're finding that they're not doing it. So when we see our farmer's market or we see cornhole like it is tonight, and we have, over 100 people in town, people are running across these two areas. Actually, I have quite a few videos on my phone of people doing it, just because I've been keeping track. One of the things that came back in the one of the surveys that we did this past year, Grace and Economic Vitality ran it, was more crosswalks so that people don't have to go to the light and cross there. It is a long light, and I think that that's another reason why people are not, and I absolutely understand where you're coming from with the cars going through, but I think it's a learning curve just like it is on M24. I know that people struggle with it and they complain about it on Facebook and things like that, but at the end of the day, we're getting people safely from A to B. We've never had something happen to somebody on M24. I'm more afraid, and after talking with Chief and him and his staff, seeing a lot of people run across these two areas, that something bad would happen if we don't have crosswalks, especially with all the people now crossing from public space to public space. The ARPA funding that we received is $130,000, and the DDA is responsible for $200,000 to be spent by the end of 2026. We would like the crosswalks to be in there, along with other public spaces that we've done currently behind the businesses to continue that project. So that's where we're looking for the funds to go, but we do have until 2026.
And President, I just want to chime in too. So you mentioned about the cost for this, the striping and all that stuff would go on the upfront. I think perhaps going down the road, I mean, it might be 4 years, 5 years that this has to be restriped again. Is that something that the DDA would then budget for?
Correct, yep.
I know we're budgeting or trying to get ours done, and again, it's been tough with the DPW, our staffing this year, hardly, because you really have to shut down a lane. You need the arrow boards and traffic control and all that stuff as you paint the one side and switch to the other side, and you can't be doing that at 2 in the afternoon coming down the hill at West Burdick. So it's tough to do. So I guess my intention was on more to bring everyone up to speed and flesh it out, I guess, if you will, and I don't think there's any action needed by council unless you guys had something you'd come up with, but.
I mean, at what point would we need to approve it, or not at all?
Well, they would go through our using our purchasing policy, right, as it goes out to bid. I assume Mr. Sharp did this, so he would be handling the design part. How about the bidding process and all that stuff? I mean, 'cause I know we have a process we use to go through all that. Is that something that you guys already have it and developed in the whole plan?
We would like to go through row
Okay.
and be consistent with the
Okay.
village.
Okay. All right, so at that point, then we would just handle it like a normal purchase that we would do, and then they would just be responsible for the cost.
It comes back to you, I think, at that point.
So the contract would be, it'd be through our purchasing and come back council approval for the contract? or,
But the DDA would be spending money before knowing whether council approves the sidewalks. Is that true?
well, if you,
That's my concern. I just want to make sure everybody's on board, so if they start spending money, I don't want them to come back and then,
Right.
then there's a no vote.
right, let's say, so if there's concerns about that tonight, I think now would be the time to, or, when do you guys, you're looking to bid it out soon then, if you want to get it done. So I think at this point, if there's concerns, it's, or directions or changes, then now would be the time to make.
So are you looking for the council tonight to generally support this configuration?
I guess so. And if not, have that discussion.
Okay.
If there's a move or a reason to change or amend it or something.
So I do have concerns about this. I believe everyone here wants to make it so that it's safe. I just don't know which way that is. My concern is that the road's at an angle, it's an extremely busy intersection, people are whipping past there. That like, if you're on Hudson and you're looking to turn west onto Burdick, that's 2 lanes of traffic that you can see. It's on an angle, so you can't really see who's coming west already. And they're turning around a corner and coming quickly. That's just one scenario I'm seeing. And I suppose I'm torn on which way is safer. Put a crosswalk there that makes it safer, or putting a crosswalk there endorses a behavior that could be more dangerous. And can someone speak to the safety aspect of it? Thank you. Sorry, I'm trying to just make sure I'm making an informed decision. Because I would love it in concept.
You're darned if you do, you're darned if you don't. The extra signage and the extra paint, people are doing it anyway, I think does help the situation. It is a busy intersection, we all know that. People are crossing there, we have the activities, so if there's any signs that we can put up, any kind of direction, any kind of paint, I think it's gonna help the matter more than what's there now to give that direction, so I think it's a good idea. It is close to the intersection, that is a concern, but like Kelly said, they're already crossing there anyway, like we put these other crosswalks in because people were crossing there as well. It just gives that extra eyesight as far as sign, arrows, paint, okay, maybe some white lines on the road as far as stripes, saying you gotta park behind that intersection, so at least it gives that visual effect. And I agree that, I think it's all of us live in this town and do business in this town, it's gonna be something that, it's a learning behavior too, that we're gonna see this, and it's gonna kinda be in everybody's face, and everybody's gonna see it and adhere to that. So, if not, then that's what we're here for. So, but yeah, it's always a safety concern, but I think the more signs and the more paint and the more direction we can give, I think is better than nothing.
Let's just put a motion on the floor so we can figure out what the plan is. I'll make a motion and we can have more discussion. So I'll move to approve the DDA's crosswalks as presented, with the DDA being responsible for the future costs of restriping, maintenance signs, and everything that's included.
Support?
Okay, so.
Jacob?
Yes.
Motion by Cook, second by Nicosia. Any further discussion or questions?
I stand on what I said at every council meeting. I think crosswalks give people a false sense of security, and I don't like them.
Do a roll call vote?
Nicosia?
Yes.
Kemp?
Yes.
Helmut?
No.
Cook?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks for bringing this to us too, so we had a chance to make sure we're all going in the same direction.
With signage.
This time. Okay, next up is the interlocal agreement with the township for property property at 501 Lakeville. And Mr. Davis?
Yeah, this is an outgrowth of property that we've been working with the township on in the court system. As you know, there's development on both the village and the township side. The judge encouraged us to get together and establish lines of jurisdiction and authority. The rational approaches in this agreement, and it lays out that the township would have jurisdiction and authority over any ordered or any voluntary demolition of the structures, with us reserving the right to be on site for the capping of water and sewer. Thereafter, we don't know what the development will be, if any, but if it's, to the extent there's new development on the village side of the jurisdiction, then we would be in charge of inspections and permitting for that development, and likewise, the township would be in charge of their side. So the judge didn't necessarily give us the format to get this done, but an interlocal agreement was put together. Joe and manager Joe had time to review it. I made some changes to it that were accepted by the legal counsel for the township. I think the agreement accomplishes what we set out to do and what the court wanted done.
Court to figure it out.
Any council have any questions?
Is this specifically for 501 Lakeville?
Yeah, it's specific to that, and to the demolition only of it. It's not any related to the building, as long as they are in individual jurisdictions.
Supervisor, do you want to come up and?
If we had any building that was gonna go on, that was gonna straddle the line again, then we'd be kinda back in the same boat.
This is a bigger problem than just a unsafe house. 501 Lakeville Road, the house and garage run right through the village on the west and the township on the east. On the east, the township property is zoned industrial. The property on the west is zoned R1 or residential. The Grixes have a plan. They would like to split the property into 3 parcels, but they're afraid to tear this house down because they're afraid they're gonna lose something, we believe. 2.5 years ago, I called the village manager, Joe Medor, and we started working through anything from annexation to zoning changes to, we've gone through this whole thing. It's now in front of the judge, and the judge says, look, one of you have to be in charge here. So we accepted that challenge, put the interlocal agreement together with Bob and Brittany. All this does is it allows us to continue on to get this house demolished. You have residents on Lakeville Court calling my office to say, now my kids are over there playing, we'll get them out of there, they're trespassing. No, there's bricks falling off the chimney, the roof's caved in. I don't know if anybody's seen this property, but the Grixes are fighting this because they are afraid they're gonna lose something. So the judge ordered an interlocal agreement between us. Joe and I have been working together on this for, like I said, 2.5 years now, and we're gonna finally come to an end. This house is condemned, and we are seeking a court order to get it torn down, forcing the Griggs to get the property rezoned to residential. We're not gonna fight that. We wanna help them get that done. Then it will all be the village's concern on what they wanna do with those 3 pieces of property. The reason we're here is the address is assigned to the house in the township. And it's the smallest sliver of land, but it runs right through the center of the house and right through the center of the garage.
Our ZBA granted a variance, a sideline variance, a 0 setbacks, a variance, I think it was last November,
Yeah.
for our side of it. And at that point, the plan was, hey, come take care of it on our side, then go to the township and take care of it on that side, and that never happened. So that's partly how it got to this point.
Correct. Now it's at the court, and the court says, well, look, plain and simple, you tell them who's in charge. We want it tore down, we'll take care of all that. If they build a house in the village, it's gonna be inspected and permitted by the village according to the specs. And when it comes to the lot that's set back right now, that's residential industrial, we're gonna figure that out. That's what the agreement says.
Thank you. Any questions for Supervisor Curtis?
What would be the next step to unraveling, after the house is gone? Like, do we split the lots along?
That's a question.
Let's unravel that,
Well, that's really to be driven by the property owner.
Yeah.
Correct.
So we don't know.
They
So
could build one hot,
my-
right?
My understanding,
Yeah.
spending an entire afternoon of my life that I will not get back.
No, I had hair when I started.
Yeah.
No, you didn't.
I think their goal is to, first of all, is to maximize the amount of residential structures they can get on the land. And I think, when they articulate their goal, they want, because they view this area as sort of like an entranceway, they want nice homes to go there so it looks good, and we applaud that. But we don't know their plan yet because they haven't really unveiled how many homes they think can go there. Would it be 2? I personally think it's 2, but I don't know. I don't know what their plans are. And I think it's a development opportunity. It's 2 people who formed an LLC. I don't think they plan to live there necessarily. I think they plan to develop it. And so I think we have to wait for their plans and see if it comports with the ordinances.
This is step one to get to allow them to show their hand. Because step one is to tear a health, safety, and welfare problem in our community, get rid of it. Now, secondly, they have to come to the township zoning board, the planning commission, and have the zoning changed from industrial to residential.
If they want to use it.
If they want to use it.
If they build
correct.
everything on the west side, which is all
And
the
so-
village,
and
then
so
they can leave that
When I
as
was
is.
with them, Supervisor, I told them, I said, if you just want to deal with the village, just build in the village.
Yes.
It's a tiny amount, probably
It's-
15% of the whole lot
But
area.
we don't know.
Is in the village, or in the township.
I couldn't get a real read on that thought.
Well, we've had several chances to go through this novel with them, and the biggest thing is, they want to get 10 pounds in a 5-pound bag, but we're not allowing them to just build a residential area in an industrial zone property.
But this doesn't even guarantee demolition. This is if the court says they have to demolish it.
Correct.
They might not say that.
Right.
They might say, we love this house.
No, they can't, because 2 engineers have already gone through it, through a court order, and approved the house to be unstable and unfit.
And that might be a step that we overlooked, Mo, in this discussion, was the first thing the judge ordered on the same day she talked about jurisdiction.
Yes.
Was I'm ordering that the township,
Inspect,
because the township was there on a search warrant motion, and the judge ordered that they open up the structure and allow for an inspection and provide the results to everybody, and they did that. And we already had, the people already did one structure and it, review, and it came back with issues, and now the second one came back with issues. Will the judge order it demolished? I don't know, but I imagine so.
We shall see. I'll make a motion to approve the interlocal agreement between Oxford Township and the village regarding 501 Lakeville Road, and to authorize, I believe it's the village president to sign the same.
Support. Motion by Elm, seconded by Kemp. Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none. We do a voice vote for that? Roll call vote, please.
Helmut,
Yes.
Kemp,
yes.
Nicosia,
Yes.
Cook.
Yes. Motion carries.
one thing, I'd like to get this signed tonight, because it's on our board agenda tomorrow.
We got it.
2 signed copies right here.
And secondly, we have another one coming up where we're gonna be interlocally agreed with the dentist at Minnetonka. His realtor, Kent Jacoby, is calling us, and what do? Well, I said, we have to work together, and Joe Medor and I understand these problems. There's 3 of them in the village and the township, cross lines like that. We just have to work together up front. So if he does plan, he's buying the house, and it'll make a mess if he does it wrong.
Supervisor, you-
And I can bring you back one tomorrow,
Thank you.
or Thursday.
Yep, no, thank you.
If I heard you correctly, is there only 3 properties that are in this mess as of right now that we know of?
That I know of in the village and the township,
Yeah.
yes. 3. I have more in the, we share one with, we share 3 with Orion, where these guys have surveyed properties right through the center of houses.
Interesting.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, next is the DDA Village Council President designee. So per our bylaws, the Village Council President can appoint a designee to serve on the DDA board. And so I'd like to appoint Jacob Nicosia, which he has agreed to. So we don't need a motion necessarily, but I want to just inform council and put that on the record. So Jacob will start attending the DDA meetings, starting with one next week, I think. So thank you.
Thank you.
8K. This is in regard to a 501c3 nonprofit that the DDA has had discussions about creating, I suppose, not the DDA creating, but have created. And so I've been in some of the discussions and I watched the last meeting. And so I just want to say that I think, personally, and I think council agrees, would welcome a group to create a nonprofit to benefit the downtown district, just like the DDA does. And so I just want to make sure that it gets off on the right legal foot. And so I have a couple of concerns about that. So I wanted to keep this on our agenda for next month to talk about a little bit more, because I know the DDA recently, they're still working on some things, and I don't even like saying that because it really needs to be a separate legal entity, but that's what it is. And so I wanted to make a motion to direct the DDA not to have any further action on the 501c3 until further action or discussion by the council, so we can just make sure that everything's in order. So that's a motion. If there's a second, and then
I'll support that.
then we can discuss it further if needed. All right. I know I'm being a little bit vague, but is there? I want to make sure council's up to speed on just some of the things I'm seeing. So 501c3 needs to be an independent. It is an independent entity. That is the point of it. And so we need to make sure for potential legal risk to the village that it in fact is its own separate legal entity, and that we don't have any village staff working for this nonprofit. It needs to have its own board, and it needs to have its own, the board makes decisions, does the work for it, and then can have a parallel mission and vision, which the DDA has talked about, to transfer any funds that the nonprofit raises to the DDA to help fulfill the DDA's mission. So, and I know Pete wants to talk, but I just want to make sure we have council.
I just don't understand why the DDA needs a nonprofit.
It's just additional fundraising opportunity, but my concern isn't, and I understand your question, but my concern isn't necessarily whether they have one, but it's not. My concern is just that the DDA does not have a nonprofit. The nonprofit is its own separate legal entity, because it's not a government function. It has its own board of directors, and I just want to make sure our village staff, including our DDA director,
No
does
overlap,
not
no.
work.
Overlap.
There's no overlap. It does not work for the nonprofit. There just needs to be this huge separation, and so far it's not looking like that to me. So that's where I'm concerned, and I just want to make sure that everything's in order.
All right, I just want to organize my thoughts. So my understanding is, from a legal opinion, it needs to be a grassroots organization. It cannot come from within this building then, or it should not come from within this building.
Correct. That's what we need to make sure is happening, that it stood up on its own and not at the direction of anybody from the village, essentially.
Would
That's my
that-
thoughts on it.
Would that include board members?
Correct.
Okay.
Doesn't this do the opposite of what you're asking? By us even having this discussion?
My concern is just risk to the village and those who work for the village, including our DDA director and our manager and our clerk, who work for the village of Oxford, I don't want them to have any overlapping work on this nonprofit, which is its own separate legal entity. So that's where my concern comes in, that I wanted to raise to council. And so I think if we just pause, if we have Kelly pause everything until we can better understand exactly, we can review the legal documents that are gonna be proposed. I mean, I don't want, it's very delicate, and maybe Bob could help, but like, I don't wanna be involved in it either. It needs to come from outside, and someone just needs to come and say, hey, we're forming this to benefit the DDA.
Well, this is kind of a new issue, so I don't want to be rendering any opinions, but I think what's happening here is there can be a 501c in the community that is established at a grassroots movement on its own that says, hey, we want to be a 501c, and we want to raise money, and we want to use that money in a parallel way as your DDA uses its money, fostering a downtown. That's a wonderful thing. The problem I see is the perception that grassroots 501c is somehow an arm of the DDA, and I don't think that's where you want this to go. So I don't really necessarily agree that we should be involved in forming it, formulating it, picking its board, writing its mission. They should do that on their own and then work on their own fundraising in parallel manner for projects that we do in our downtown. I mean, I think it's a great idea.
So, Jacob's now on the DDA board, so I wanted to.
Yeah, digest.
You're going to jail.
But also, I wanted council just to be aware, because I know the DDA relies on our clerk and our manager to do some functions, and they absolutely cannot rely on our clerk and manager or our executive director for the DDA to do anything that's perceived as working for the nonprofit. So that's where I just wanted to see if my concerns were shared, or, you know, what we can do. And I think what we can do is, by way of my motion, is to put a pause to it until
We understand it.
it's better understood.
And may I just, to help the two folks with their hands up, this discussion was something that we came up with, and Bob really only learned about this in the infancy, like today or yesterday. And so this has kind of changed where we were this morning, yesterday, of what we were wanting to go and what we were looking to do tonight. But having a conversation with Bob, I think it really enlightened myself, Kelsey, Bob, and then the council needs to be aware of that. The beginning of this need to start properly, and that's where the direction he's asking for is, or directing us to say, the DDA shouldn't be the one, maybe picking members of DDA may not be the one to do the bylaws, it should be separate. So I think that's what's kind of pump the brakes kind of came as we met earlier today, or right before the meeting, actually.
I wish we could have been part of that discussion, because
This
morning our
yeah.
discussion was not that way.
Exactly, that's why I wanted to make that point. We never had a chance to even speak to Bob about
Yeah,
this until.
I just heard about this today.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
these are questions that I've been asking.
Almost every question you had, Kelsey, you could have answered it tonight.
Well, I've been
I
asking these
recommended it to
questions.
Joe yesterday.
Okay, I don't want to get in an argument. This is my village council meeting right now, and so we're not going to have any more public discussion. I'm just saying that I've been asking questions of the DDA executive director for months about this, and I have not gotten an answer that says this is going to be a separate legal entity. So I'm concerned, and I've heard it's going to be an arm. I'm going to do this for it. You know, we're going to do that. I watched the last DDA meeting back, where they said, Kelly said, yep, I'm gonna be doing the accounting for the nonprofit. No, we can't do that. So that's where I'm concerned, and I say this out of a lot of care, that I just wanna make sure that it's done the right way so that we can get additional funding through a grassroots organization that stands up its own nonprofit like it should be. We need to just kind of reverse whatever has gone on so far, which I have been in part of the discussions with, but just, I'm not an expert on this at all. I just saw some things that I had questions about, and I haven't gotten answers. And so that's where I just wanted to bring it up to council, to just put a pause on it with the DDA until we can better understand. And maybe they have a lot more information now, and we can, that's why we'll add it back to the agenda for September, and we can, you know, talk about it a little bit more then. So, and I don't want to get the village involved in it at all, but when it's our staff who's potentially going to be doing the work involved in it, including our DDA director, then it does become an issue for the village, so. I'm gonna call the question then. So the motion I made was to direct the DD not to have any further action on the 501c3 until further, I guess, further review by village council.
Support.
Okay. Do we need any more time for discussion or questions? Okay, we'll do a roll call vote.
Cook,
Yes.
Helmut,
Yes.
Kemp,
Yes.
Nicosia.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. All right, item 9, there's no items removed from consent agenda. 10, public comment. Anyone from the public? Chief?
He's staff reports, what's he doing?
Yeah.
Come on, chief.
Sorry. I just wanted to make sure everybody is aware of this. This is something that myself, Fire Chief, and Jack go to the Resiliency Center every month, and we talk about, get together about this whole tragedy and come up with some different
this is
ideas, and I want to make sure that everybody's got the information.
This is good. This is good.
They're going to be, their funding's gonna stop next year, and they're looking for someone to kind of take the torch and move on with it. This particularly is a panel discussion for September 16th or September 17th at 6 p.m. at Lake Point Community Church. And the panel discussion is for the opportunity to hear from victims and survivors of mass violence events from across the country. For those of you that's mentioned down here at the bottom that want to come to this event, have any ideas, want to listen to those folks, just want to make sure you guys have the information.
Thank you. Move on to committee reports. Did anyone have any information on NODA? I know that's Lori. but-
Nope.
Okay. Planning Commission and Cable Commission?
Neither the Planning Commission or the Cable Commission has met since our last meeting.
Thank you. The DDA, Kelly, do you want to give an update?
We were excited to sign our contract for ARPA funding this week, getting $130,000. We've been working on it hard for 2 years. This will include placemaking, restoration of our gazebo, and then infrastructure improvements. And thank you to Village Council for approving the crosswalks. We had our strategic planning session, thanks to Jacob and Joe for coming and being part of that discussion. A great 4-hour meeting about the future of downtown Oxford and what it looks like. We have just partnered with Oakland County to run an SEO workshop for our business owners. That's going to be September 24th. We met with multiple new business owners this month, including the new Fatouche Mediterranean restaurant that's coming to downtown. We have fall and winter planning for all of our decor that is coming up. We will be receiving the truck back in Washington Square for the photo op. Oktoberfest is coming up September 15th, Downtown Day September 28th, and Scarecrow Fest September 29th. We have updates on our new e-commerce platform. If you haven't shopped on there, please do. It's Shop Main Street OC. We are updating the trifold maps that are distributed through Oakland County that has all of our businesses on here. There are a lot of updates. And also the 2024 recognition for being the #1 shopping district in Oakland County. We have our last week for market coming up this month, or this week, but then we will have one more concert due to a rainout date. And that will put us at over 50 events for just this summer that we have either partnered on or my staff specifically has run. So we've been working really hard, and I can't believe it's already over. And then we had been working through the 501 with the attorney to make it a completely separate entity. I did meet with Joe this morning and he felt good about it, but I guess that has changed, so I'm sorry to hear that.
County and Trail, any updates?
Nope, nothing to report.
Okay, manager, staff, and attorney reports, Mr. Bedore?
The PUD lighting over in the West Burdick area, the last light was put up, the connections were ran between them. All we're waiting, that was from a contractor of DTE. Now we're waiting for DTE to make the final connection. The boring under the Stanton Street has been completed. They have to make the final connection. Our East Burdick Street pavement restoration and repair bids went out, I believe, today. And they are due nope, went out yesterday, due on the 26th. Again, that's that repairs from Glassby Street west over, there's some actually at Mill Street and the northeast corner regarding catch basin work with there, but mostly mill and fill, a little full depth on some spots, but we'll hopefully have some good bids here in 2 weeks to bring back for the September meeting. We believe that work can be done yet this fall, and that's our plan. Now, one thing I want to add to that too, we also added in an optional cost for repairs in the church parking lot there that we have the agreement with, at the northwest corner of Mill and East Burdick. We discussed this, I think, earlier last year or earlier this year when we were talking about the parking issues, and the church, the agreement that the village has with the church from many years ago is that the village would do the plowing and light maintenance, and heavy maintenance would be the church's responsibility. The church doesn't have the funds to do those repairs in that small lot out front. And as we talked about, maybe pushing more people from the downtown out to there to utilize it for parking,
Right.
they're like, that'd be great, but is there anything you can help us with the parking lot? I mean, because the vast majority of the parking on their north lot, which is a large one, very little on the south lot, the vast majority of the parking is used by downtown residents or patrons. And even though it's not part of the agreement we have in place with them, I have an option gonna be on that bid for the village to do some repairs, remove and replacements, fix the catch basin in that church lot for your consideration. That will be part of it. It'll be a side option in there, estimated at 10,000 or less, probably less. Like a 30 by 30 area, another smaller area, and then just the catch basin. Again, that's optional. The obligation, really, the way the agreement is put in place, the church is responsible for those, but that's for you guys to decide and discuss. But it'll be part and parcel of the East Street bid at September. We also have the east, as I mentioned before, that stretch of East Burdick from M24 over to Glassby is the only federal aid eligible area in the village. So it's possible it could be funded through the federal road dollars. I'm working with Roe right now to they're gonna perform the application for that for us. I believe it's due September 4th. You'll see them doing a traffic count along East Burdick there to get the count numbers up just in time to make our application better. That would be a full, like a replacement from, if we're able to get into the county TIP, the Transportation Improvement Plan, it's a 5-year plan. Somewhere in that 5-year period, if we're eligible and score well and get in there, it would happen within that 5 years, and it'd be a full replacement from Glassby over to M24. Repairing some of the curbing along the side, making some safety improvements, which helps our score in that as well. So that's something we'll be working on in the short term, to at least get the application in. The TIP projects that the county, cities, villages, and townships all work on together to put projects in a TIP, so that'll be accomplished, I think, in November, December. So then we'll at least know if our project gets into the TIP. Then it's that 5-year cycle that we would hope for funding federal dollars for. I touched on it earlier, the Eagle was out, Department of Eagle, the state, Michigan, several of them. They have some trainees as well, so there's like 5 of them going through our water plant, each well house, and things like that. A lot of records, going through records, looking for 10-year-old records. Everything went well. Safety things, generator backup. They went through, we spent about 3 hours on the phone with them on a Zoom type call, 3 or 4 hours one day. And then they were here for probably 4 or 5 hours on site the following week. Everything went well. They were very happy with what they saw. We're doing a few follow-up things with them, just that they're asking, nothing that we didn't have, but just that we have to then now provide to them. So they were very happy with what we saw. Everything went well. We will have some pricing hopefully next month for some dehumidifiers in the water plant. As you can tell, all the pipes in there, especially in the summertime, they sweat. There's a lot of humidity in the air, and all 3 of our dehumidifier units are not working currently. So Don's been trying to get some pricing for that for a couple months now. We're getting a little hopeful that eventually we'll get some pricing. So hopefully that'll be back here and get some pricing for a September meeting. Park Street project, it's going a little slow, mostly because there's so much underground out there. They're making headway. They're just about done. I think tomorrow they're going to close the intersection of Hovey and Park. And that'll be the last sections of water main to put in. From Pontiac over to Hovey is done. From Hovey over to Mechanic is done. That last intersection part should be done Wednesday. They were working on some of the catch basin work today. Part of what slowed it down and kind of made them pivot is very poor record keeping by Consumers Energy, especially at Pontiac and Park. all of a sudden, a different person comes out and they're talking about a 6-inch medium pressure gas main under there that wasn't anywhere on the prints or the plans or on our plans because it was never provided to us before, and now it's showing up. They can't tell if it's live, abandoned, a different person comes out and they're like, yeah, we have not great records on this. So that's caused some consternation with Rowe and trying to maybe move some things around for the catch basins and the storm drain items on the west end of the street. Other than that, it's going good, and they hope to finish up that and start filling and testing the water line, maybe the end of the week or first of next. And then they'll be working on some of the drain structures as well. I mentioned earlier about DBW and our staffing. We have 2 employees starting. One of them should be starting here in the next week or so. Long process. He's working for a large landscape company as a foreman and everything as well. Very well rounded and does a lot of things that we need, but he ended up being about a 3-week notice. The other one, we just gave information today, or the Channacussie things for his DOT physical and stuff too. So that one we don't think will take as long out because he doesn't need to provide the same type of notice. So hopefully we'll have 2 of them on here within the next 2 weeks, 3 at the most.
Great,
So.
thank you. Mr. Davis?
Yeah, so in a 5-2 decision, the Supreme Court ruled on the question of whether or not committees are subject to the Open Meetings Act, especially in light of when they don't have decision legislative authority. This case revolved around the city of Warren, who had a committee that expressly stated in an ordinance the committee had absolutely no decision-making authority. They never really did make a decision, and they put the decision into the city council, who made a decision. But the Supreme Court saw fit to look into the actual behavior of the committee on a subjective basis and delved into the committee's workings and concluded that, well, even though you say you didn't make the decision, we all know you did. And so they issued a ruling that sort of creates a subjective analysis on committees. I would recommend for this village and for its other entities that all committees comply with the basic requirements of the Open Meetings Act.
Is there training? So like our DDA committees may need some training on how to comply with Open Meetings Act? Is there resources?
I have prepared already for other communities who are facing the same issue, a training manual on the OMA that I could start with. I'll get it to Joe and he can get it out to whoever, and then we could have the training. It's not the Open Meetings Act. I didn't just repeat the act.
Right.
I wrote a document that said, here's what it means, here's what you should do. You know, everybody gets all worried about the minutes. The minutes under the Open Meetings Act is name, rank, and serial number. You don't have to keep elaborate minutes. You gotta have, you know, a public comment period. You gotta post the meetings. Those are the basic requirements. Dana Nessel from the AG's office filed a brief concurring with my brief. Judge Viviano and Zahara wrote a scathing dissent favoring my argument, and the 5 just, it's an open door for litigation on committees, you know, and it's not so much here, because, you know, we don't rely on a lot of committees, but when you get into the upper workings of state government, I mean, there's a lot of committees, and they do a lot of work. And to be constrained now in this way is a little bit awkward, but we should figure out what committees we have, and I would, be my opinion, you should comply with the Open Meetings Act.
Thank you. Council comment?
So, Walt, how'd your drug safe event go?
It went good. I was hoping for more of a response, so we may put it out again in the future. So just need to get the word out a little more. We still have some boxes remaining for those that didn't get a chance to get in. So.
When I got in my car to drive around to leave that night, they were flagging me down like I was coming in for one. I'm like, no.
Should've gotten 2 in case they're small.
But we do have some spares if we need. And they're not just for marijuana.
Well, actually, we were gonna come up and get one for Dave's Parkinson's medication, now that I have a 1-year-old in the house.
Yeah. Got about a dozen in the station that we need one, so.
And then I just wanna say, the Northwest Quadrant law is probably the greatest neighbor of all time last week. Sheila Frost passed away after a bad illness, and I mean, she did everything for everybody. She and her husband plowed everybody's sidewalks. It snows, they do the whole block. They took care of some of the senior citizens. She was always everywhere, taking care of everybody, and it was really sad to see her go.
She would leave vegetables at the door.
She would just leave vegetables at the door.
And her husband would plow her driveway.
And that's it.
No comments this month.
I just want to mention that I have been attending the Oxford, kind of like leaders, stakeholders meeting monthly, so, Phil Castonia, I think, kind of revived it, and so, a group of us go every month. I can't make it, this week, but it's been really great. I've gotten to talk to the new superintendent, one-on-one a lot as a kind of a outcome of the meeting, being connected, Nikki Oxford is there, you know, Joe attends, Chief Solwall, Kelly, and others, and so it's been really great to get, just, you know, people, stakeholders from all over the different spots. And then the schools, the village, the township, the fire department, Chief McDonough. So if there's ever any issues that council wants to do, like suspension, it's happy to pass it along. Otherwise, Joe and I usually just kind of give an update of what, you know, what's going on in council, what's going on in the village, and then see where we can help.
Thursday at 8 o'clock?
Yes.
At the fire station.
Yeah, right. Okay. I'll move to adjourn at 8:26.
Support.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Cook, how much is that?
Yes.
Oh, my cheat sheet already.
Yeah.